Great advertising or great story is about two disconnected thoughts. When you have two disconnected thoughts that you can't imagine it to be together, it just throws a big surprise at you.
Hello, everyone. I warmly welcome you to the third episode of PressPlay The SIBM Pune podcast. My name is Darshana Kothari, pursuing MBA in Innovation and Entrepreneurship at SIBM Pune. I will be your host for today's episode. I'm a proud member of iSMaRT, the PR team of SIBM Pune. iSMaRT is the face of SIBM Pune. At iSMaRT, we handle all social media handles of the institute, along with sustenance and amplification of the brand as our primary goal. We strive to provide exclusive coverage for all major events, including corporate events, management events, and cultural festivals. Besides this, we also conduct Prolio, which is India's biggest PR case competition, and PropelX, a personal branding lecture series. PressPlay is the official SIBM Pune podcast, a new initiative crafted and designed by iSMaRT to build a lasting narrative with distinguished guests, industry leaders and stalwarts, creative personalities, young achievers, and entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we will deep dive into the topic of storytelling in PR, creating a strong brand narrative. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce you today to Mr. Krishnakant Mishra, a luminary in the field of marketing and branding. Mr. Mishra's journey is nothing short of inspiring. Hailing from the esteemed University of Mumbai, where he earned his bachelor's degree in engineering, Mr. Mishra has demonstrated his leadership acumen early on by serving as the General Secretary of the Student Union Council from 2012 to 13. Following his academic pursuits, he embarked on a remarkable career journey with Ogilvy, one of the most prestigious names in the advertising industry. Over the course of more than a decade at Ogilvy, Mr. Mishra has traversed through various roles within the organization, showcasing his versatility and expertise. From his humble beginning as an account executive to his current position as the head of experiential and branded content, he has left a lasting mark on the industry. His contributions have been instrumental in elevating brands such as Cadbury 5-Star, Titan I+, Pond's, V, Araldite, and many others. Mr. Mishra's prowess extends beyond the confines of his professional roles. His accolades, including being featured in Forbes 30 Under 30 2020, Impact Top 30 Under 30, and Social Top 30 Under 30 in 2019, and his recognition at Cannes Lions Young Star in 2015 speaks volume about his exceptional talent and dedication to the field of branding, advertising, and marketing. Mr. Mishra is also an independent content creator and a filmmaker, leaving his mark on the digital landscape with over 100 captivating films and content pieces. Sir, your journey is truly inspiring to all the aspiring professionals in the field of marketing and beyond. We warmly welcome you to PressPlay The SIBM Pune podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It felt like a brand the way you introduced me. Thank you so much.
So, sir, jumping right into the topic, public relations is often subject to misconceptions, often viewed solely as a facet of marketing or a tool reserved for managing crises. I would like to ask you, what is your definition of PR and perspective on the concept of public relations?
Interesting. So, like you said in the introduction, I don't have a formal MBA. So, I have not been trained in the idea of what PR, activation, advertising is. What I've learned is over the years of being around in the office, just picking up brains of who, what did what, and so on and so forth. Interestingly, I think, these are divisions that are made over a period of time by the industry just for ease of business. But essentially, at the core of it, you have a brand. You need to promote a brand. The brand needs to make money. That's it. That's the concept. You can pick and choose and say the base element of research comes into something else, and the final launch gets into a lot of PR. And PR is a little overused term over the past 5-7 years, where people, exploit it to many different ways and regions. I think what's important and what's interesting is to get the DNA of any brand, talent, or service that you're trying to advertise. Okay. Once you define who this brand is, what it does, What is it that is going to communicate to the audience? That's exactly what PR needs to communicate on ground. It's almost like a self-reflection. For example, the way you introduced me, whatever I have done, you had a very honest opinion about this is what this person does. That's exactly what PR needs to do. What is happening of late in the last couple of years, all thanks to social media, is PR has been defined to a lot of other off-stream offerings and things as well, which exactly is not PR, according to me, at least the PR I have learned. That definition will keep evolving, keep changing with time. I think that's not something that we should be concerned about. What's more practical is about how do you practice it. And I think if we stick to the core of what it's defined as in your books, that's all we need to do. There's nothing indifferent about the process of PR that we need to follow or come up with something else.
Thank you so much, sir, for the insightful response on the broader perspective of PR and how we can connect PR to the brand's personality itself, and looking at PR as a subject beyond crisis management. So, a follow-up question to this: what, according to you, is the role of storytelling when it comes to PR, and the role it takes in shaping a brand's positioning strategy, and the impact that a well-crafted narrative can bring to a consumer's perception?
That's a very, very heavy question, but let me try and answer the little I know of the industry of the past 10 years. See, storytelling is a lot of who you are. Okay. You might read 100 odd books out there, but those are just clinical things for you to refer to. It's almost like driving. I can teach you driving, right? Clutch dabana hai, accelerator dabana hai, gear change karna hai, gaadi chalani hai. You can become Max Verstappen, who's like winning Grand Prix in the world, or you could be some other guy who's bumping into cars, doing car accidents. So I think storytelling, or essentially the way creatives work, is that you need to be a lot more exposed to your surrounding. I think that's what makes interesting and compelling storytelling. It is very, very important that as a writer, as an art director, or even somebody who thinks stories, you should be exposed to tons and tons of stories around you. And you never know, stories can come from your own house. It can come from the hostel room you guys are in right now. It can come from this morning of what happened to you. And you have to be so receptive about things that are happening in your environment. That's one. Two, you have to go and find the unknown. So you have to go and find things that are out of your reach, out of the box, out of your comfort zone. It's very easy and casual to tell to 5-10 people, that listen, we'll go out and what an interesting story that brand has done. Look at this amazing film. We all preach Hollywood, right? Look, so amazing movies and what. Why are they amazing? They're amazing because they're thinking out of the box. Thinking out of the box is not a statement or a phrase. Thinking out of the box is a very, very heavy thing to do. Like you to step out, think of something new altogether. That's one. Compelling storytelling comes from the idea of disconnected thought. So very early in my career, I think there was a gentleman named Daniel Kumar, who was the head of Asia Pac for activations. He had a very beautiful theory. He said, great advertising or great story is about two disconnected thoughts. When you have two disconnected thoughts that you can't imagine it to be together, it just throws a big surprise at you. For example, if you watch cricket, Rohit Sharma hitting a century is okay. Jasprit Bumrah hitting a century is much more enchanting. Oh, he's a bowler. He's hit a century. That's more news. That's more interesting for me to watch. That gives me more satisfaction to see, I think disconnected thoughts makes for a great story. For example, I just returned 2 days back for a project we were on, 5-star for Valentine's Day. The project was called Skip Valentine's Day. Yeah. So we erased the idea of Valentine's Day and we were in the Samoan Islands executing it. We realized nobody can think of 5-star, Pacific Ocean, International Dateline, Nambi Narayanan. There's no connection, right? Disconnected thoughts. So I think it's very important for us to craft anything that you're doing. So for example, if you're also trying to brand this podcast, PressPlay, how is it different from the 1 million other podcasts that are available? How are you different? In the realms of being constitutional, of course. You cannot say illegal things. You cannot just make it, brand worthy or cringe worthy by making it loud and use all those nonsense that's happening on social media nowadays. But you need to find your own niche. And I think that niche will come from two things that you cannot. And I'm telling you, it's the most difficult thing to do ever, to have two disconnected thoughts being connected in your mind. वो आपके दिमाग में आ ही नहीं सकता. We take ages and ages to just think, 6 months to just think about two thoughts that can come together, two things that, because our mind is programmed like that. When we think of ideas, when we think of a story, we go to the most immediate thought that we have in our minds. That's how the brain functions. So to pull that thought away from the entire narrative and then think of something new, I think I hats off to all the creatives and everybody who does that very, very well. That's extremely important. Thirdly, we live in a world where everybody is an influencer. That count of followers and this is I think irrelevant, because you have the option to voice your opinion right now. Like you and I can take your phone, write something on Twitter, write something on Facebook, and it is accessible to every living being on the internet throughout the world. The access that our Prime Minister has, the President of the United States of America has, I have the same access to write and voice my opinion.
Right.
So it becomes so difficult for you as storytellers to, because see, it's a subjective medium, right? Even the best films ever made, the Jurassic Parks of the world, the Godfathers of the world, had critiques, had people who didn't like it. And it's impossible to create something that will be liked by everybody. So what's difficult now in storytelling for a brand is that I can create a very, very, very good story, but it's open for opinions, and it's open for opinions for everybody. Any and everybody can have an opinion on it. So what do you do about it? Nothing. Just create good stories, because that's in my hand, you know. So it's also important as a storyteller that you stop taking yourself too seriously. You have to be very, very honest to the process. You have to look inside. You have to believe strongly about what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do. It's something that you want the world to hear, because we also come with a lot of responsibility. Whatever we are trying to say will shape a lot of minds altogether. So we have to come with this source of responsibility. We have to come with this source of freedom, but responsible freedom, and have very, very, very unique conversations with these disconnected thoughts coming together. So I hope I answered your complicated question in a little complicated way as well. It's something for you to process.
So definitely, you had a very unique approach to storytelling and how it needs PR. So what I observed in your answer is that you are very inclined towards being observing to an environment. This reminds me of something that Piyush Pandey sir himself has written in his book about having people around them as their sounding boards. So all the stories inspired are coming through there. So that's the source of their creativity. And majorly Ogilvy, I feel, being authentic is one way of putting out the best of brand narratives. So continuing on the lines of authenticity, what in your view are the essential components that contribute to crafting a compelling brand narrative, and how does authenticity play a role in the same?
Authenticity is everything. Like if it's not authentic, it's not going to work. Period. So when we sit within the brainstorming room and say, look, this is what my audience is doing right now. And see, we create ads. Do you like watching ads?
Yes, sir.
Do you skip? No. Let's be honest.
Yes, sir.
Do you skip ads? Do you skip ads on YouTube?
I definitely do, sir. But there are a few narratives which definitely stand out, and those which stand out are better.
As a story, advertising as a medium is not something that people look forward to, right?
Right.
I don't look forward to ads.
Right.
And we're programmed in a way where I watch the TV and I'm going to skip the ad immediately. I'm going to switch channels.
Yes.
Now with YouTube, I'm going to go premium and I'm going to skip ads. With Spotify, I'm going to go premium. So we are creating. So, I mean, it's something for us to, and I laugh about it many times, that I work in an industry which nobody wants to watch. I'm going to create something which nobody is interested in watching as a medium. Okay. What makes it compelling? And so the only thing I have is a very interesting way of developing that narrative. So I have to make it authentic. I have to make it heart to heart. You know, if you're watching my ad, I have to ensure in the first 5 seconds, I have something that interests you. So storytelling can come from, I think, three to four different aspects. The most important aspect of storytelling is it has to come what the consumer wants to see. Very important. What do you want to see right now? Yeah. So what is the state of mind in this country right now? So when you develop a story, I look back and say that, listen, this country has just come out of a pandemic. We are all in the phase of getting all things together. this entire shift of 5 things that I want to do has been delayed, and what is it that I want? So the tone of the country is aspirational. So whenever we think about something, the first filter we have is it aspirational for people to watch? Then comes
Right.
the idea of who am I catering to? So if it's something, so many times we also develop creatives for market specific creatives. For example, it's going to happen for North or for South. So what's the sentiment that's running around? What's the time of the year that we are in right now? So it's January. What's the weather like? Yeah. Because watching something is a sensorial experience. You're sitting right now in an AC room in your college. What do you feel? It's winters in Pune. You woke up, you had something that you've experienced the first couple of hours. So we take all those devices into mind, that this ad is going to play at this particular time. And it has to be measured, it has to pick the right thing altogether. Authenticity is what we come from the school of Piyush Pandey. He's taught us left, right, and center that, boss, I don't want anything sci-fi. I don't want the artificial intelligence of the world. They can come, they can always help build better ads. But there has to be a great story at the heart of it. It has to have a lot of heart. And without it, there's no point of what we do in our professions. If there's no heart, I think we should just shut shop and do something else. Go back to farming.
So it's very evident from your response that authenticity is core of what you and Ogilvy as an agency has always created and believed in for crafting an impactful storytelling. So for the next question, I would like to ask you if you could share a few methodologies or creative hacks that you and your company has employed for crafting the best of compelling storytelling narratives.
There's honestly, I mean, you guys are young brains, and I don't want to devise any method to your mind, because great things were always created for the first time. They're never created
Right.
again.
Absolutely.
Yeah? We're not playing cricket. ऐसे technique है, ऐसे cricket खेलना, you can play it again. We're developing ads, and it can come from anywhere. So, see, there are the textbook methods of do this, do that, do this. I personally don't follow any of it. I don't like any of those methods. Whenever there's a fresh thought or a brief from a client or a problem from the client, I would like to sit back, relax, and think about it from a very, very new point of view. That doesn't mean I have to go in the hills or shut myself in a room and think of ideas. No, it's just a genuine process. How well do you understand your client? How well do you understand his problem? How well do you understand the scale of execution that he's looking at? I think we'll be home. Developing an idea, like I was saying, out of the box thinking will never come sitting in a box. Out of the box thinking will come when you move out, when you meet people. So, for example, I would not name the brand, but we were developing something for people of Mumbai. This is, I think, about 5-7 years back. I mean, the brief was, what is it that you can do? I think the instant answer for me is to Google, but Google doesn't help. And I needed to observe people. So I remember spending like 2 days on CST station, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus. I was just there. I took a ticket. We were seated, and we observed people. Me and my colleague. We observed people for 2 days. Just looked at people. What's the body language? What's the feel of that they're trying to do? What are they eating at those stalls? Where are they walking around? What is it that they're going in their mind? Not talking to anybody, just observe. And when you keep looking at that, you will find an action. You'll be like, yeah, this is interesting. Let's pick this up. Or this is the most interesting action that I've seen across my 2 days. So it's called ethnography. But again, there's no method to madness. Every single project has its own new method, and that's what keeps me excited for the job I do. That tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'll have a very interesting problem to solve, and I will have an interesting solution to or an approach to that problem. It can never be going back to the drawing board and following creative techniques. While I have immense amount of respect for people apart from me in the industry who follow processes, I don't come from that school of thought.
So, sir, a follow-up question to this, as I also majorly belong to the creative industry itself, I have also worked in an agency. So creative work often demands a lot of creativity, and you have to be on your toes when it comes to observing and coming up with creative ideas. So it might also lead to creative blocks. So what are some ways that you have dealt with your creative blocks, something that has worked for you?
Okay. See, any creative that you develop has to invoke an emotion.
Right.
And when you if the idea doesn't enchant me, it doesn't work. So I'm not going to sell anything which I'm not excited about, or I have the fear of being jailed for executing it, or I have the fear of this is going to transform the world forever. If I'm excited about that idea, I will go and pitch it. The block can only be erased when you have it. Whatever you present and do, it has to invoke an emotion. It has to make me laugh, or it has to make me cry, or it has to leave me furious, or it has to just make me feel like a bit mushy in the world of Cadbury Silk and so on and so forth. So I think it's very important that whatever you do invokes an emotion. There is nothing called as creative blocks. Creative blocks is almost like lethargy. You're not in the process of thinking. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? हाँ, procrastination है वो.
Right.
Creative block, there is nothing called a creative block. If you followed the process of creation in its clinical form, and you're committed to the idea, you're committed to the project, you're committed to what you're creating, there will never be a creative block. It will all happen like that. So you need to do your homework before you get into execution. That's extremely important. Before you sit on a table and write ideas, you need to go back and know the world. Ask why. So there's one process I follow very ardently. Why? So I'll keep asking myself why till the time there's nothing to ask. For the sake of example, if I'm trying to explore something about motorbikes in India, idea about electric motorbikes. We just launched Luna last week, Kinetic Luna, the electric variant. So if we have to devise an ad for them in the rural segment, I will sit back, think about this overall framework, and keep researching why, keep talking to people, who's using it, how will it fall in line, this, that, before I'm starting to think about the ideas. It's extremely important that you know your subject, you know the universe before you sit, because then you'll never have a block. Creative blocks happen when there's not
Missing
enough
information. Right.
When you don't know, that's when the creative block is happening. You don't know. But when you know, there'll be no creative block. So a lot of pre-work needs to happen. You need to know your subject very, very well. If you're taking my interview on this podcast, you need to know the universe of the podcast. You need to know what is the best podcast. You need to know what is the worst podcast. You need to know how people go about it, what things can go wrong, what are the kind of questions you ask, how do you record, blah, 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 blah. Then you come and sit and say, this is what I'm going to ask you. So be the master of your subjects. Just fall in line for you.
Thank you, sir. That was an enlightening response, which I truly resonated with. So what I understand is you need to put yourself in your consumers and audience's shoes before you start creating an idea. And certainly, I think these hacks will come handy to anyone in the creative industry. So moving on to our next question. How do you perceive the landscape of storytelling within the diverse cultural tapestry of India? Could you elaborate on your understanding of the Indian market and how it works for you and Ogilvy as an agency?
Very early in my career, when I just passed out of engineering, the first job I had was to study and travel different parts of the country. It was to conduct research. So that gave me a sense of traveling to almost every Indian state, except for J&K and Kerala and some parts of Northeast. I was a different person when I came back because 20 years of my life was completely different. And those 4 years of traveling different parts of the country just taught me that where I live is a metro. And that's just 23% of the country. 77% of India is, it's rural. And the perspective that changed over the next 3-4 years of me wanting to learn more about them, wanting to know. I think we live in an absolutely beautiful country. The diversity that we have, the cultures that we have, it's so much to be proud of, and it gives you so much fodder to create. I think one agenda that we've driven in Ogilvy for the past 5-6 years is to work with these cultural congregations. So we actually have 195 cultural congregations pinpointed and shortlisted across the country. So it comes from, and it is not just religious, it could be sports, it could be any event. So for example, in 2019, we did the Kumbh Mela in Prayagraj. We took 7-8 brands to the Mela, ensured there's good work, there's massive work that came out that won at different awards. It even went to a Cannes shortlist. In pandemic slowed us down, but we came back again last year. We did Kila Raipur Rural Olympics. Do you know our country hosts a Rural Olympics?
Yes, sir. I've also read about it. So,
Biggest and the only rural Olympics in the country. Yeah, it
yes.
happens in Ludhiana, Punjab. So we did Kila Raipur, we did the Nehru Trophy boat race in Kerala, we did Wari in Pandharpur, the Ashadi Ekadashi festival that happens in Maharashtra. So in the last, I think, 5-6 years, what we've devised is the idea of reaching out to cultural congregations across the country. And as part of it, we started doing with Kumbh Mela in the 2019 Prayagraj edition. Progressively, after pandemic, we've done Kila Raipur Rural Olympics, we've done Nehru Trophy boat race in Kerala, we've done Pandharpur Wari in Maharashtra. We are aiming to do Batkamma in Telangana this year. We've done Pujo in Kolkata. We've just finished doing Pongal in Chennai. And I think that's where the many Indias that live within the country is what you need to enchant. And I'm telling you, as a brand, if you go that personal with these people, for example, I'm in Chennai celebrating Pongal with the people of Chennai. And it's not just a Facebook post. It's not a Instagram post. You have to go beyond that. You have to be there on ground, literally celebrating, being there for people. You will always have loyalties like no other. And they love the idea of you coming in as an outsider and celebrating who these people are, celebrating their culture. If you do that, I think you've just cracked yourself as the largest brand in the country. That's how you win in India. That's what we've been approaching very, very ardently in the last couple of years.
So you have truly proven that in India, unity lies in our diversity. So moving on to our next section, I'd like to ask you, how do Indian brands cater to the global markets? Is there a difference in the approach?
Honestly, the way India works, you have different states, you have your marketing props that are crafted for each of these states. I think it just falls in line with what you do global. There's nothing different. For example, if I'm doing something in the European market, I need to understand the market. It's as simple as that. The process remains the same. There's nothing different. The approach that we do Bajaj. Pulsar has its roots in many, many countries. And the way they approach advertising, or for example, Tata Motors, the way they approach advertising in multiple parts of the world is just the same unique process of devising who these people are, what they do, what is it that's happening in the country, what is the current. So honestly, if that's a process that needs to be followed, it's almost like saying, I have to hit this demography. I need to understand what these people are feeling right now. I need to see what they're going through. I need to see what they'll go through in the next coming months. And this need not just come from a reference of it has to be social, economical, geopolitical, all of it together. So wherever you approach in the world, you will have this one thing, methodology that has to be followed, like non-negotiable. And when you do that well, I think you're home. You don't have to think different.
Okay, sir. So adapting to whatever area and audience that you're catering to is the key, and acing and crafting a compelling brand narrative. This is what
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
understand. So moving on
Absolutely.
to the next questions, what are some of the trends that you see foreseeing the future of storytelling in PR, considering the evolving landscape of communication and media, especially in India?
Honestly, hand on heart, I can't tell you what will come ahead. It's impossible. I would have never claimed in 2016 that there'll be a pandemic in 2020 that's going to change the entire world of advertising for sure. So, like I was saying, we have a very subjective medium that we deal with, okay? We deal it by the day. I can tell you what will happen in the next 20 days. I cannot tell you what will happen in the next 1 year. And if somebody's telling you what will happen in the next 1 year, trust me, they don't know. They're just faking it. Because nobody knows anything. You go by the mood, you go by the flow. That's what our PR is all about, right? You wake up today morning, you see what's in the news. What can I make stories out of? You get into, pack your bags, leave for work, make a story out of it, come back, open speak. So it is, and I think that's the attitude one needs to follow. Because future trends, if you have a certain thing, you build your expectations in your mind and you get married to it. For example, if I tell you that rural will become urban in the next 7 years, there'll be no rural India. If that's the trend I need to follow. But if I get married to that thought, then everything that I think about, I will always have that thought in the back of my head that I have believed in it. So I have to stand to it. I think you shouldn't be. And honestly, I am so excited for the times that we're living in right now. You know, it's almost like the entire country is on internet. We have a very, very young population that's out there. Everybody loves to create. You know, India loves to create now. It's not just about people consuming. So, पहले हम बोलते थे content is king. Content is not king anymore. Context is king. So वो context important है. लोग आजकल कहीं भी आप चले जाओ, they'll pick a phone and start creating content. People love doing it. India loves to create. They don't love to consume now. But that's not a trend. That's what I'm observing right now. What can I do with it? So, for example, if tomorrow I have a brand that I want to build an idea on, and imagine if I come up with an idea that I need every consumer to create an ad for me. So I will have 10 lakh unique ads, for example, created by 10 lakh consumers on their phones. Hi friends, kaise hain dosto? On that note, a 1 minute ad. That could be the next big idea. That I have consumers making ads for me. We don't know what is going to happen in the next, but the immediate 1 year or so, I think a lot of creation will, or UGC as we say, user generated content, will be at the helm of what we create. And there'll be a lot more, I don't know about social media, but there'll be a lot more punch on good stories that will come out, because people have started calling out. People have started calling out bad stories. Because they are so exposed to content, because we are also exposed to content that we see around, the consumer is also very educated. You cannot bluff him. You cannot bluff a rural guy, show him a story and make him believe in something like that. He won't believe it. They know it. So if it's a bad story, it's going to be a bad story. If it's a bad film, it's going to be a bad film. A good film will be a good film. A good ad will always be a good ad. So that difference, that bridge will be more clearer in the next 1 year. उससे आगे मुझे नहीं पता.
So, sir, coming to UGC content that is going to be on the top of marketing trends in the coming time, I think you would agree that ShareIt and Moj apps are on the top of their game. And also, your input on the trends is immensely valuable. I'm sure the perspective is going to be helpful to all the newcomers in the advertising industry. So coming to our last question, for our listeners aiming to enhance their storytelling and PR and branding, what is your final advice or insights that you would like to offer to elevate their efforts?
There's a creative gut that you develop over the years. That will happen over the years. If you want to be a creative, thinking of ideas, I'll go back to the example of driving. I've learned the mechanics of driving. I've learned there's a gear, there's a clutch, there's an accelerator, there's a steering that I have to do. But when you start driving or when you start riding a bike, you will observe that after 3 months, 4 months, you're automatically doing it. Your subconscious mind is doing it. Similarly, creative thinking will happen when you develop a creative gut. So when you hear an idea, when you write an idea, when you think of an idea, you know it will work, or you know it will not work. When you see an ad, you know it will not work. When you see a film trailer, you know it will not work. That creative gut is very, very, and you guys are very young right now. So that the creative gut has to be developed in its purest form. Okay. So don't hold yourself back with theories that you read in books or videos that you see online. My only request, not even a suggestion or advice, it's a request, because you guys are the next bunch of creators that will come into the country. When you build that creative gut subconsciously, please ensure that the process is very, very honest. You go out, meet people, listen to their stories. Yeah. Look at your observation, look at the surrounding you're living in, talk to people. You know, the most interesting conversation I've ever had is with my watchman, the building watchman. It is beautiful. I had a 1 hour long chat with him. The kind of things he told me is something that not even like my parents would tell me about. His experiences of seeing day in, day out so many people and whatnot. So keep yourself open to the idea of talking, grasping anything responsibly. No unconstitutional stuff. But building that creative gut is extremely good. You will love the energy that comes into you over a period of time. There are no shortcuts. If you think in 2 years you'll be a great creative, not happening. और shortcut लेना भी नहीं कभी. Just follow, be at it. It's a process. Go easy. Don't be harsh on yourself. If you want to write, first write 1 lakh words. Then call yourself a writer. Write first to be a writer. Practice art to be an artist. So
Right.
it's important that you practice, be honest to the process, keep yourself open, and ensure that the creative gut that you develop over a period of time is very pure, is unbiased. Just listen to everything and anything around you. That is extremely important. Because a lot of times I see a lot of young creators that I see are very biased. Like, this is cool, rest everything is not cool. Nahin. That's not our profession. We're not in that profession. We're in the profession of accepting things and trying to ensure that there is value in those things. How do you see value in this? As long as they're legitimate, they're legal. We have to create value out of it. And for that, you have to be very, very pure. You have to be with a lot of heart. Yeah. So be that. And I think rest all will follow. बाकी किताबें पढ़ते रहो, videos देखते रहो, वो तो चलता रहे.
Thank you so much, sir. As I understand it, it is very essential to develop the creative gut, which comes only through experience, and following a very authentic, being very authentic to the process itself, and being as observant as possible to your surroundings. Coming to the end of this podcast, I'd like to thank Mr. Mishra for imparting knowledge and expertise. During our enlightening session, you dwelled into valuable insights on crafting impactful storytelling, gaining a deeper understanding of finding our own niche and thinking out of the box. We explored the significance of authenticity, discovering creative hacks that broadened our perspectives and contribute to the art of crafting a compelling brand narrative. You also emphasized that content is not king anymore, but context is. The statement definitely is going to leave a lasting impact on all of us. Thank you for this enriching discussion, sir, on creating and crafting a strong brand narrative. So we thank you once again for being a part of PressPlay. We genuinely appreciate the time and expertise, and we look forward to the possibility of crossing paths with you again in the future.
Thank you so much. Godspeed, upwards and onwards. Now go observe around you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.